something in your life has started to feel a little off, a little tight, restrictive, or uncomfortable. Venus opposite Uranus is the point where you stop trying to squeeze yourself into old roles and environments that you simply don't fit in anymore. This is a transit that's asking you to outgrow the patterns that you know no longer fit. But this particular transit is coming with a lot of growing pains. It feels quite painful on our end, but also in our perceived feeling of how it's going to affect the other people around us as well. Their discomfort, their emotional pain. So today I want to offer a different perspective on what we can do when we've outgrown people in our lives. Venus is in Scorpio opposing Uranus and Taurus at the 29th degree on November 30th. But we're already feeling this. The 29th degree is an anaretic degree, meaning that it's quite powerful. There's a lot of fate or a karmic feeling. It's unstable and it's a degree of endings. And I do think something is ending, but it doesn't always have to be in the way that we think it is. When we think of endings, especially in the astrology world, a lot of times it comes with like ending, but really even like the self-care world or any advice world, it's like ending a relationship, ending a career. But I think that this is going deeper. I think this is ending patterns. And that's even more difficult, right? Because oftentimes we leave the person, we leave the job, we leave the situation, but we just repeat the same patterns again and again. And this is really what my work aims to do over time with people, is to see those patterns and really sit with them. This duality of thinking that when we've outgrown someone, we either have to stick it out in pain or leave and become free, right? This is like very Uranus versus Venus. There is a third way. There's a lot of third ways. There's a lot of gray there. There's a lot of nuance, but when our bodies feel foreign to us and we're trying to use this thing up here to make our decisions for us, whether we're doing it ourselves or outsourcing it to other people, asking our friends, asking, our practitioners, asking whatever. This is why in my work I say, like, I won't tell you what to do. I will support you. I will guide your internal process, absolutely. But I know the perils of that duality, that dualistic way of thinking, especially when we outsource it. It's very painful in the long run. It's very painful. So the beginning, this third way, this nuance that's in between, the gray that's in between, leave them or stay and be in pain, comes through curiosity. It comes through recognizing that this gray area isn't a place of confusion, which is where it often feels, but rather a place of possibility. There was a relationship recently in my life where I felt this dynamic with, where I was like, oh my gosh, I think I've outgrown this person. But what I realized when I got curious was that maybe I had outgrown this person in a certain way, but they are a multi-dimensional person. There are so many aspects of their being, and I was trying to box them in and into a certain way that I thought that they should be, maybe because that's how I am, I don't know. But I actually was able to, in that moment, see that they offered so many different things, and maybe what needed to just change was our relational dynamic. Now, there are some situations, of course, that are more black and white, but I find those to be very, very, very far and few in between, truly. And so we're stuck in these patterns because we don't see a way out, and we go from person to person, or we go from astrology video to astrology video, or tarot video to tarot video, looking for the answer, right? To get out of our discomfort. But simultaneously, underneath that, we are keeping ourselves uncomfortable, right? So how does this shift occur with this confusion of this nuance or this gray area into possibility and curiosity? Yes, it is a mindset, but more so it starts with self-trust. And self-trust happens through the body. I have a workshop coming up on December 6th, and we're going to be discussing these themes exactly. how to work with the cosmos. It's called co-creating the cosmos. We'll talk about astrology, we'll talk about human design, we'll talk about the somatics and my perspectives on this on a deeper level. So if you're interested in that, I'll have the link in the description. Because this is where we get really stuck. Not just with astrology, but with outsourcing our decisions. Trying to use this old thing to make a lot of decisions that require something much deeper. Like the situation I was in. It was a pattern of mine to disengage and then feel really crappy about it after, or, blow it up and then just feel like, well, that's easy. Now I don't have to think about that anymore. And sometimes that may be true. I feel like what's holding a lot of us back right now is not just our own discomfort and pain, but how other people may be feeling. We are growing. We have a new vision. And we're afraid of hurting other people. I talked about how in my work, I often have to make people a little uncomfortable when I won't give them the answer that they're seeking, right? A lot of the answers they're seeking are simply not answerable. The sensitive, attuned part of me who was a people pleaser for all of her life wants to just make them feel better. But as I said in my last video, if I know that something's going to hurt you, I can't do that for you because I've been there. I know what it feels like to want to outsource your power. It doesn't work. It never works. And that itself is an old pattern. Your desire to stay comfortable at all costs, even though you consciously want change, is what is keeping you and other people from growing, right? So often we're afraid of making other people uncomfortable because we don't want to hurt them. But discomfort is how we grow. So not only do we have to feel the discomfort, but we have to allow other people to feel the discomfort too. That is how we give them an opportunity to rise. How can you get curious about the situation that you're in rather than getting caught up in the emotions of it? How can you get curious? What do you need to do? Connect to the body. I have videos on that. Illness as Initiation series. I'm going to continue to do that because I think it's so important. When we are strong enough to allow discomfort in our own lives and allow it in other people, we'll notice how multidimensional people really are. How, when given an opportunity to change, a lot of people will rise to that occasion. It'll take time. I remember when I was in therapy, that was the number one thing. I was like, I don't want to grow because I'm afraid my partner's going to leave me, But you are creating something bigger right now. And this version of you that stays small to accommodate others or to accommodate yourself even cannot create the life that you desire. And I promise you that the version of you that you are becoming is not the person who will be afraid of losing the things that you are afraid of losing today. You are becoming a different version of yourself. That version will not have the same fears. You have to trust that. So as you move into the next few days, as this is coming to a culmination, remember that it's not about who you are right now. It's about growth and who you are becoming, the life that you are wanting to build. It's calling you to step into something bigger. Not just for yourself or for this other person, but for the collective, right? We're all part of this collective unconscious. How do you need to value yourself in this situation? And in fact, how would this future version of yourself value yourself? There has been chaos. You are moving towards something more stable, but something needs to leave first. It might be a person, it might be a job, it might just be a pattern. What pattern is it that you've been noticing? In this situation that you're in, I want you to think of the pattern, not the person, not the money, not the career, not the environment. What's the pattern? There's another type of growing pains that's coming up when the sun moves into gate 9 around the 29th, 30th, or I'm sorry, the 29th or 28th. And we'll talk about that a little bit more. I might talk about that on my Substack, because this type of growing pains is understanding the difference between when we need to have patience and when we need to truly persist. So if you're not on my Substack or my mailing list, I have those links in the description down below. If you'd like to join my workshop on December 6th, I'd love to have you there. It's going to be amazing. I'll have the link in the description box below as well, and I'll see you soon.